flight, we are go for launch. T minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. This is Navigating AI, hosted by Rich Wilson, guiding business leaders through the new intelligence era. Let's explore how AI is reshaping business, leadership, and the world.
Hi, I'm Rich Wilson. Welcome to Navigating AI, where we guide business and HR leaders through the new intelligence era. Today's episode is titled From Wrenches to Workforce, a veteran's shift into ops-minded HR and AI. And today's guest is Chad Allen from Wichita Kenworth. Chad started out as a lightweight vehicle mechanic, working on everything from Humvees to heavy equipment. He served for about 24 years in the Army and the Kansas Army National Guard, including 21 years in an active status before making the jump to civilian HR. Chad's take is simple and real. When you leave the military, you're not writing chapter 2 of the same book. You're starting a whole other volume. Today, he brings that mindset to Wichita Kenworth, where he runs ops-minded HR across recruiting, UKG administration, benefits, and health and safety, plus oversight across insurance and workers' comp. He's also a practical AI user using ChatGPT to draft policy documents, tighten communication, and speed up major documentation work, including a large insurance inspection that earned a score of nearly 97%. Chad, welcome to the show. So great to have you here, and it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Definitely appreciate it.
Chad, I want to start with your story so people understand the path you took and why you see HR the way you do today. For folks meeting you for the first time, what do you do at Wichita Kenworth, and what all falls under your lane right now?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Rich. Definitely appreciate it. I mean, when it comes to anything you can think of HR, right? Onboarding, offboarding, recruiting, benefits management, managing the UKG system, our HRS system of choice, uh, uploading documentation, performance management, safety training. We utilize a different system for our safety training that our insurance broker is able to facilitate for us. Really everything, all encompassing. So we're a smaller HR team. It's just myself and one other person that basically covers the benefits administration piece, and then also the payroll administration piece. And then I cover all the employee relations, and then also recruiting events. So little bit of everything when it comes to HR. So I really like to leverage a lot of my previous experience here, telling a little bit, stories, anecdotal stories, utilizing those types of scenarios, and then just applying them in a little bit different way.
Before we go into HR, I want to go back to where this began for you.
Yeah.
You started out turning wrenches.
Yep.
What were you working on back then, and what did that teach you that still shows up today?
Yeah, no, I actually started, turning wrenches in my grandfather's shop back in Fort Dodge, Iowa. So he owned a little 4-bay shop. Ever since I could, really do anything, I started out mowing grass there, did everything that he needed, washing parts, sandblasting things, scraping stuff, doing, and then, progressing to brake jobs and, tearing apart transmissions and all sorts of stuff. And he also did a lot of drag racing growing up there. So we spent a lot of time at the drag track as well growing up. And then when I decided to join the military, I always kind of knew I wanted to do something, that took me out of Fort Dodge, because it's a smaller town. It's kind of one of those places where, if you grow there, you kind of live your whole entire life there. So I wanted to expand my horizons a little bit. So I decided, what better way to do that than in the military? So joined the military straight out of high school, graduated, and I was in basic training probably 3 weeks later. So, well, maybe a little bit longer, but nonetheless, me and a friend of mine, we were both in basic training, within 6 8 weeks of graduating high school. And then, went to Fort Riley, and I worked on everything, as you said, from Humvees to heavy equipment, scrapers, graders, bulldozers, uh, anything, lots of things with tracks, all sorts of stuff. So, that it led me to a pretty good path. And then after, after I served my years in the active component, worked across town here in Wichita at a Freightliner dealership for about 5 years, working on all the over the road trucks, semis, Freightliners. Did a lot of transmissions, built more transmissions than I really care to remember, to be honest with you. But then, in '05, '06 era, I was exposed to an opportunity to go full time in the National Guard as a recruiter. So that was my entrance into the HR world, was recruiting for the military. And, that taught me a lot of different things that, as you said, leverage back to, what lessons I learned as a mechanic, just hard work, determination, dedication. It just, you just apply it a different way, right? So it's not anything that you can, nothing that you necessarily change over time. It's more just, kind of who you are as a person, which is someone that comes to work every day, does what you say you're going to do, and then also just really, tells the truth and becomes a very truthful person.
You said something in our previous conversation that I really love. You said,
Yeah.
when you leave the military, you're not starting chapter two of the same book,
Yeah.
you're starting a whole other volume. Tell us more about that.
That's the way I like to look at it. Is it's a whole different book, right? Because a lot of folks that do leave the military, and I'm not trying to paint a broad brush here, but a lot of people that do leave, they'll anchor themselves to that military service, and it's tough to kind of disassociate and disconnect from that military service. So for me, the way I chose to approach it was, I'm not flipping the page to a new chapter. I'm putting that on the shelf, and I'm writing a whole new book, because I'm still, me personally, I'm still, young enough in my age here to really have two totally different careers, right? So I have my military career, and I don't completely set that aside. I still leverage my experience. I still tell stories. I still find ways to, pay respects to that service, because I mean, it was a huge part of my life and has been for a long time. Both my son is in the military, my daughter's looking to join, so it's almost kind of becoming a little bit of a legacy at this point. But nonetheless, I still love everything that I did. It's just I needed to find a way to, for me personally, to effectively apply some of those leadership lessons I learned in the military, in a different setting.
When you got to Kenworth, you
Yeah.
said the biggest lift early was HRIS.
Yes.
You'd never been a system admin before. What was it like learning about UKG beyond just the surface level?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to leverage a military saying, man, it was like drinking from a fire hose, and that's not that's not unique to the military, but really just absorbing as much as you possibly could, know where to get resources, a lot of self learning, a lot of leveraging the UKG community, which is amazing, by the way. Also leveraging a lot of knowledge articles, which are really good, right, as well. And then also, my counterpart, she was here from the inception of UKG, so she already had, several years of experience. So if I got stuck or needed some guidance, I was able to, to leverage her in that regard. So at the end of the day, just utilizing your resources, a lot of self learning, and then also some deeper knowledge articles, to go along with the community.
So from there, you then pivoted into benefits administration. Now,
Hmm.
you're retired military.
Yeah.
You're not personally using the benefits. How do you keep yourself grounded in what employees actually need?
Yeah, there are a few benefits that I'm using, like dental and vision, but the biggest lift is the medical piece, right? Because that's
Mhm.
always going to be your biggest cost. Really, just leveraging our brokers, understanding different things that they like to apply for like type businesses, and then also just talking to the people. I go out, a couple times a day and really just listen and learn and talk to the guys out there, talk to the gals out there, and just understand what their current needs are, and then see where between their wants, needs, and desires, and then also industry type comparisons, we find a way to present the best benefits package possible.
You oversee health and collision, and you oversee workers' comp.
Yeah.
How do you keep synergy across those decisions so the ship doesn't go adrift?
Constant touch points, right? Got to make sure we keep on top of these cases, especially work comp, because that could get away from you real fast. If you don't stay on top of it, stay on top of appointments, make sure that your workers that are out on work comp, don't go to their appointments, or make sure that they do. Just a lot of constant communication. And the good thing is, I mean, again, like we're not a huge organization. We're right around 230 people, but it's that family environment that you can just call somebody up on the phone and say, "Hey, I hear you may miss appointment, or you have an appointment here. Are you good to go?" Making sure everything is good, and really just kind of facilitate through the process and help walk beside that person, that injured worker that's out, just to really make sure that they know that we're here, and also they know that we're kind of making sure that that they keeping them honest, so to speak, right? And getting them to their appointments, making sure they're good, and then touching base with them as much as possible and as much as they need.
Now, that's 230 people managed by an army of two.
Yep. Yep.
All right, let's bring it back to the people then. You're
Yeah.
recruiting in a moment where the industry has headwinds,
Yeah.
and that forces tougher choices than just hire
It
more
does.
people. You're doing job postings, onboarding, recruiting events, and out talking to people, but the industry is facing headwinds.
Yeah.
How do you hold steady and decide when to backfill versus not?
Yeah, a lot of that really is sometimes just a stop, think, and ask moment, right? Where you say, "Stop! Hey, we've had a loss. Okay, someone left the organization, or we decided to offboard somebody in a not so positive light, and really look at their job roles and say, what does this person do? What do they own? What are they responsible for? What are their expectations? What are their inputs? What are their outputs? And see if there's a way to redistribute that to the current workforce. If there is, great. We have those conversations, see if people's willing to, are willing to take on those additional responsibilities. But in certain cases where it's just absolutely not possible to disperse that workload, then we do have to go to market and fill that role, right? So,
Mhm.
really just understanding the critical nature of each position. And like you said, right, it's not just, hey, we had a loss. We need to put out a job ad immediately. We need to start the recruiting process immediately because we lost somebody. Well, let's take a step back and really see if we do in fact need to replace that role.
Okay. You're not just talking about recruiting in theory, you're actually out in your community doing it. You
Correct.
mentioned setting up recruiting events. What works in your local market right now, and what have you identified as a waste of time?
Yeah, I think you said the word that was coming to my mind is local, right? You want to
Mhm.
locally source talent, whether that is at community colleges, technical schools, or referrals. So always find that referrals are generally do stick around in an organization a little bit longer than somebody just coming off the street. But at the end of the day, those are the things that do work the best, because even if you're facing headwinds and your hiring is maybe slowed, you still want to get that brand out there, right? You still want to make sure you get that product knowledge out there, present your potential opportunities, your future opportunities, because you never know in this industry here, and really industry, hiring could pick up at a moment's notice. Someone could leave, and we have that one person in mind that we know they'd be a good cultural fit for the organization. We just didn't have a position for them at that particular time. where you can leverage that network back and say, hey, we have a position for you. Are you still looking? And then you bring them in so you can expedite that process. So really, when we have that local talent availability, it's a little bit easier to fill those roles a lot quicker when they do come open. And then, really, even in our outer stores, every one of our locations has a major technical school that's pretty close by, that we tend to source talent from there. So having those relationships with those instructors at those technical schools is really key. It's very crucial to have those relationships.
This leads us to a bigger question. In a
Yeah.
in a tight market, everyone says they want the best talent, but people define it differently.
Yeah.
What's your definition of best talent in this environment?
That's a really good question. I've been kind of thinking about that one for a little while once when you pose that question. And really, to me, it's beyond the resume. It's not just what's in black and white in front of you. It's what you show up to an interview, how you show up to an interview, how you carry yourself. Understand that, maybe if you're a technician still in technical school, hey, I don't know everything. Right. I'm gonna come into this with my eyes wide open, my ears open. I'm gonna learn and be a sponge and absorb as much as possible. I'm gonna work with some of the folks that have been around here in this industry for a while and really absorb their knowledge and see, and because that older generation, that knowledge transfer is really what we're looking for. We're looking for those veteran technicians to transfer that knowledge as much as possible, as quickly as possible to those younger technicians to get them up to speed. So, we're looking for people that are willing to learn and understand that they may not know everything. They may not be best knowledge in the room or best knowledge in the shop, but they're willing to learn. So asking, probative questions around, those types of arenas. How do you learn? How well do you learn? And understanding that you're constantly being evaluated through the process, not just what technical skills you can bring into my shop immediately. Is are you going to be disruptive? Are you going to be, a behavior problem or an attendance issue? Like those are the types of things that we're looking for beyond the resume. And then also, folks that are career minded. I'm not looking for somebody that's just looking for a job. We're looking for somebody that is career minded because we do have technicians and employees that have been here at Wichita Kenworth for, 10, 15, 20, 30 plus years. So those are the folks that we're kind of looking for, people that are career minded, because it takes a lot to make a master technician, somewhere between 5 and 10 years. So, those are the people that we're looking to invest in, as long as they're willing to invest in us.
All right. Now let's layer in the tool that's changing how a lot of people work.
Yeah.
You're not using AI to chase buzzwords. You're using it to get time back
Yep.
and make the work cleaner. You said, when I asked you about it, you said, oh, 100% when I asked if AI helps. What was the first real use case where you thought, yeah, this is worth it?
Uh, for me, it was emails. Um, just understanding that, I may not, find the best way to articulate through a message, or have the right vernacular, so to speak, and understanding who I'm talking to, my audience, and who I'm really trying to communicate to. Because I had found when I first exited the military, my emails were very simple, very direct, very to the point, but I was getting a lot of questions back, right? And it was frankly frustrating people. So, and I dissected why that was, because I wasn't providing a complete message. So when you don't provide that complete message initially, there people start making assumptions about you, or maybe not about you, but potentially about um, the way that you operate or the way that you work. And for me to utilize that AI tool to help me, formulate my emails, reword them, polish them up, and then also provide a clean message and complete message was extremely useful for me.
So, walk me through how you use Chat GPT for policy letters. What do you
Yeah.
ask for, and how do you validate what comes back?
It really depends on what you're looking for. You want to be as specific as possible, so that way it pulls from the internet, the best messages possible or the best draft possible. And then I'll copy and paste that into a Word doc, and then I'll tailor it to my specific industry or company or whatever. So, like you said, for instance, if you're looking for a policy letter on heat protection or fall protection, hey, in Kansas transportation industry, fall protection potential policy letter, like those types of things. If you kind of tailor your search as much as possible, it will help you the first time, formulate that base document that you may look to transition and adopt to your organization.
Now, let's talk about that biggest proof point you gave us, because this was not a small task. You
No.
had a 450-page insurance inspection. What did AI help you build, and how did that affect the outcome?
I mean, it helped me generate a lot of initial base documentation, like I said, whether it was a safety manual or a slips, trips, and fall policy letter, like those types of things. Because there was several sections that I had to go through in order to make sure that I hit all the points that they were looking to cover in that inspection, to make sure that we had some sort of policy or guardrails around that particular whatever it was. So I was able to, really just do a lot of, chat GPT searches, to make sure that those documents were clean. Then I would transfer them and then transfer them back to, reword them and polish them up in order to get that printed out. And I was able to, get that. I think I had maybe a 3 or 4 week notice for that. And I was able to get all that stuff done for that particular inspection, to include, prep around the shop, because we had to do walkarounds in the shop as well. Talk to people. I mean, it was extremely comprehensive for our insurance company that we had to get it done, and I was very fortunate that I feel that we were pretty successful in doing that.
The part I think leaders will appreciate is that you didn't just generate documents,
No.
you operationalized them. Describe taking those base documents, adding letterhead and signature pages, floating them by leadership, and suddenly they're real policies. What's your process so it's fast but still clean?
Yeah. And yeah, efficiency is key, right? I don't have access to the key leaders all the time, so I got to maximize my time with them when I do. So, I generated everything, made sure it was all, like you said, clean, clear, crisp. Met uh, met the intent, and then also kind of coincided with the company handbook as well, making sure all that, there wasn't anything that was conflicting in there, and then tailored it to our specific needs, to our industry, to our shops throughout Kansas here, just to make sure it made sense. And I utilized a lot of my prior knowledge as a technician, as a mechanic, in order to do that. So I do feel I probably would have been at an extreme disadvantage if I hadn't had that previous knowledge and applied that in this instance. So
That also brings up the risk side, because there are times when AI can help you start, but it can't be the final answer.
yeah,
You said some things have to go by lawyers, state specific
yeah.
verbiage, disclaimers, and fine print. Where's your line from where AI starts it versus humans finish it?
Well, like I said, I mean, AI may start the base document, but it's always touched, read, and finished, by my eyes or by someone else's. So, like you said, whether that is, the vernacular, tailoring it to our specific needs or our specific industry. Like you said, you can't just, hey, AI, generate this for me, and take that at face value. You always have to read through it, challenge the AI too, and then also your own line of thinking to make sure you're producing a quality document that will that you can enforce and that will withstand the test of time. Because there's also a lot of situational type stuff that you may encounter that the AI obviously cannot anticipate because it's artificial intelligence. So you can't get away from the critical thinking skills that are still required and the strategic thinking skills that are still required to produce a successful document.
I want to end with a few practical takeaways people can actually use. For a veteran listening who's transitioning out, what's one thing that you would tell them so they don't get stuck trying to write another chapter in the old book?
You know, that's a really good question too, and I like to think that over the years I've given guidance and I've also received guidance and also mentorship. So really start expanding your network of people that have exited the military and that you feel are successful in that particular industry, and try to loop them into your network. Really try to understand, hey, what were some of your choke points, so to speak? What were some things that, some of your successes? What were some of your failures and setbacks? Really understand and utilize those lessons learned, those lessons learned? Yeah. Okay. Lessons learned, to make sure that you have as smooth as transition as possible. And then start that process as soon as you know you're going to exit service, whether you decide to do just your initial tour or term and get out, or, like myself, get out, then get back in and then retire. Understand that you have to leverage your not only your veteran networks, but also, those veteran networks within that particular organization that you're targeting. Because I came from Coke Industries. Coke Industries has a large veteran industry. Over here at Wichita Kenworth, internally, we have a large veteran constituency. So, making sure that you talk to those folks and say, hey, what did you do to be successful? What did you do to, transition more efficiently and more effectively. And like you said, so that way you don't kind of anchor yourself to that, I'm going to do it myself mentality, which, frankly, that's what the military is. We're going to find a way to do it. We're going to find a way to do it ourselves, and we're going to find a way to do it. And then we're going to find a way to do it as a team. But as you're transitioning, you start to feel maybe that you are alone, but you're not. There is a large veteran organizations, a lot of them out there that will help transitioning military members through that process.
Now, for those business leaders on the other side of that transition, there's often a misunderstanding of what military minded even means.
Yeah.
For those leaders who say, "Man, this person is so military minded,"
Yeah.
what do you wish they understood?
Yeah, the military does have a way of programming folks into very linear thinking. But as you progress through the ranks, it does tend to switch to more that tactical thinking approach to things, to more of that strategic thinking, strategic way of thinking. So it really just depends on, really where that particular person exited their military service and how long they've been through that military service. And, just understand that just like any employee, you're going to provide feedback, you're going to coach through it, and hopefully you understand where to when and where to coach, and then also adopting that. I wouldn't say adopting common vernacular, because or just understand that um, where you're at may not be where they're at.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, let's bring it back to the business side.
Yeah.
If you had to recommend one safe 30-day AI pilot for an HR team, what would you start with?
Emails. Start there and really just see if you see the benefit, if you see the uptick, you see the reduction in the back and forth, providing clarity, trying to understand, what this person's trying to say versus how this person is receiving it, just really testing yourself to see if the message that you're providing is clear, is concise, and is complete. So if you understand those particular things, maybe start there and see if you can start seeing the value in the way that even your internal team communicates with one another. And then, maybe kind of go to your external team members, people that you're, whether it's vendors or, external to the business or whatever the case may be. But, maybe really start there and see if you can see those increased benefits of, more clear, concise, and complete messages within your emails.
Last question. This is where everything we've talked about comes together: leadership, standards, and the environment people are stepping into.
Yeah.
You've described Wichita Kenworth as a work hard, play hard environment. How does that mindset show up in the day to day culture, and what helps people succeed within it?
Yeah, it definitely shows up, day over day, because there are a lot of family members that work here at Wichita Kenworth. I mean, we got brothers, husbands, wives, daughters, all sorts of cousins, family, right? So when it's a family environment, you want to make sure, first and foremost, you get the job done. You do what's asked of you. You adapt, you overcome, you find a way to succeed, and then you may go somewhere and have a couple drinks and talk about it, or you may go like what we've done here too is we participate in the Gladiator Dash. We've participated in polo plane events. We do company picnics. Just really just finding ways to recognize a job well done, while also coming together and celebrating as a family, because that's really, at the end of the day, really kind of what we are.
Chad, this was great. I appreciate you walking us through the whole story. And for those of you experimenting with AI in HR, take one idea from this episode and run a safe 30-day pilot. And as always, thanks for tuning in to Navigating AI. If you want more conversations like this, follow the show and leave a quick review. It helps more leaders find the podcast. And Chad, once again, thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
Mission accomplished. This is Navigating AI. Subscribe for more insights into how AI is transforming business, leadership, and the world. Until next time, stay curious, stay ahead.